take a breath together. So many thoughts. What's the difference between anxiety, fear, and excitement? That's a pretty perfect match, quite honestly. Let me take the big one first, fear. Because fear, real fear, is an amazing gift. Right? We spend a lot of time vilifying fear. Can you turn this down just a fuzz, Vaughn? Fear actually is a function of the autonomic nervous system, biologically. Now, let me, for those of you that are not like geeks digging through books to learn this silly stuff, the autonomic nervous system is quite literally has two branches. It's the fight and flight, the feed and breed. Those two systems work completely independent of thought. They work while you're sleeping, while you're not paying attention to them. They work whether you're thinking or not. That's where real fear comes from. Real fear, the autonomic nervous system fear, actually ignites different chemical responses in your body to send energy to the parts of your body that are needed to respond to an actual threat, and you're not aware of it until after the fact. The thought comes after this brilliant system is ignited. So I invite you, I have a whole workshop I created called Fall in Love with Fear, because fear is an amazing thing, right? If you think back to tragedies that have happened in the world, and then we hear people report that they don't know why they were on the way to get on the train or the flight, but something inside of them said, don't go. And they listened, and they're alive to tell us about it. That's fear. That's your autonomic nervous system picking up on something that is outside the realm of our physical perception. Perhaps learning to listen to that will keep us safer in this physical realm. Because, folks, look to nature. Every living thing that has the ability to scurry away from physical danger does so. When was the last time you stood in a field and chastised a rabbit for noticing you and scurrying away? How about never? But yet, we chastise ourselves a lot. There's an amazing book. If I had a guru on fear, it would be Gavin de Becker. It truly would be. Gavin de Becker, Gavin de Becker grew up in a horrific childhood. And he took everything he learned from his childhood to survive and turned it into an asset. He has an amazing book. His first book is called The Gift of Fear. I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it, especially for women, because he really breaks down how women are socialized at every level to ignore your God-given warning system. And it's just true. Socialization has completely crushed a woman's identity around healthy fear, and lots of women die behind that. And it doesn't have to be that way. So I highly recommend his book, The Gift of Fear. So how do we get from this beautiful biological fear to weaponizing it against one another? That's where thought comes in. That's where thought comes in, right? Anxiety. Anxiety let me go back into my social work and psychology degrees. It comes from the German word Angst, tightness in one's chest. It is a pervasive sense of nervousness that, unless there is a biological component, which is quite rare, interestingly enough, anxiety is thought-driven. Change your thinking, change your life. This morning, I came in and noticed that the candles were pretty well kaput. And I noticed I didn't have any extra candles. And so I had some anxiety because I'm telling myself, I blew it. I should have brought more candles, blah, 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 blah. So I did a little bit of work around that, got rid of it, and it was all nice and comfy until I started lighting the candles again. And then I'm noticing, well, that one lit for 30 seconds, that's not going to work. And then the anxiety comes back. Not because anything horrible is happening, not because you have said or done anything, but because in my mind I am projecting what I would be thinking about you if you were lighting the candles. See, if you don't know me yet, you'll get real quickly, I'm a truth teller. Right? Because it doesn't serve me to lie. Right? It's like, you ever taken one of those surveys online to see what kind, some element of your personality, and you lie on the survey to try to show up as the personality that you think you are? Right? What are we doing? That's anxiety. That's anxiety that says, I really know who I am, but somebody else might look at this little assessment tool and they might find out something about me I don't want them to know. And I don't even want to know it, so I'm going to lie to myself. And then when the tool comes out the way I want it to, I can say, see, that's who I really am, without even acknowledging that I lied. But that's the kind of silly stuff that anxiety creates. Right? What happens if we just own, I'm having thoughts about this? And these are what the thoughts are. And okay, do I feel any anxiety yet? No. But now when I project those thoughts onto you and make you responsible for thinking them about me, now I got anxiety. You see how that works? As long as we're in honesty, as long as we're in self-honesty, we can actually deal with what's happening. Right? I look at my gas gauge and I see that it's really low. That might create some anxiety if I start spinning a narrative about how far away the closest gas station is. But when I'm on my way to pick somebody up and I start adding in that if I stop to get gas, then I'm going to be late to pick you up, and I could call you and tell you this, but then you're going to have thoughts about me and that I should have left sooner, and all because I've decided something about you, thinking something about me, and the truth of the matter is, I think that about me. It doesn't even matter what you think about me. And then if I dare to share that with you, here's the typical scenario, not 100%, because nothing is 100%, but the typical scenario is, I share with you all of the craziness that went through my head, and you're like, oh, it's okay, really, it's fine. And then I argue with you about why it's not okay. Maybe it's just me, but I don't think so. Right? That's the silliness we do with anxiety. Simple fix, tell yourself the truth. Just be okay with you. Life happens. Learn from it, When we know better, we can do better. I stopped saying when we know better, we do better, because that's just not true. We have the possibility of doing better. But not everybody who knows better does better. Sometimes we ignore what we know on purpose. Sometimes we weaponize what we know to create anxiety for one another. Because if I can keep you in a state of anxiety, I can control you. Why am I bringing that up? Because we live on planet Earth in the United States of America, and we're in a political system right now where a whole lot of that is happening. I will say anything, whether it has basis in truth or not, to capture your attention. Right? There's a political phrase, the tail wags the dog. And I'm not identifying parties. You know why? Because politicians do it. I don't care what party you're in. People do it. Spouses do it in their marriages. Ministers do it with their congregations. Doctors do it with their patients. People do it. We weaponize one another's thoughts to capture your attention. Why? Read Don Miguel Ruiz. Read, and don't even worry about the 4 agreements. Just read the introduction in chapter 1 over and over and over until you get it. We are conditioned on a reward-punishment paradigm. Humanity is. Not just America. Humanity is conditioned on a reward-punishment paradigm. That is based on how well your attention is captured by one or the other. We've gone so far in our humanity, or lack thereof, to weaponize pain as a product of reward. No wonder we're confused. Right? Sometimes the reward, sometimes we make the pain we go through the reward. Doesn't have to be that way. What if you take reward and punishment completely off the table? What if we take good and bad, right and wrong, more and less, up, down, big, little, take it all off the table? What are you left with? What is? You're left with what is. And when we are willing to deal with what is, then we won't need to qualify it anymore. See, the only reason we're qualifying what is to try to decide whether or not to accept it or reject it, whether or not it's a reward or a punishment.
Come on. Come on.
I don't know about you, but no matter what I try to do, what is. Bill Clinton, one of the wisest things I ever heard the man say, it all depends on what the meaning of the word is. He wasn't wrong. He was manipulative in his use of it, but he wasn't wrong. Life is. That's just it, period. Our thoughts are creative. Our thoughts use conscious. Think of your thought as a funnel, as a mold that consciousness is moved through and poured into. Because that's what's happening. So as you think, so it is. Right? Excitement. It's amusing to me that we talk so much in spiritual communities about getting rid of fear on our way to the amusement park. to get on a roller coaster that scares the crap out of us for excitement. Hey, I'm just saying. We create haunted houses to scare us because it's fun. We get on roller coasters that take us straight up where we cannot see anything but sky and then drops us. Whee! It's terrifying and it's exhilarating. Perhaps the only difference is what I tell myself about it. We are sensational beings. How do you know you're alive? You sense things, right? We have skin filled with nerves so that we can feel. Our thoughts create anxiety in our body so that we have an awareness. We are sensational beings. It's the big hook for drama. Because drama lets us know we're alive. We feel the excitement. I'll wrap up with this. 41 years ago, I had about 6 months clean from all drugs and alcohol. And I thought I was dying. I went to my physician, and I made that poor woman test me for every fatal disease on the books. Now, this was 41 years ago. And my medical bill for all those tests topped over $3,000. That tells you how many tests. 41 years ago, $3,000 was a lot of tests. Negative, 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 negative. Healthy, insanely healthy. And she called me in and she said, "How long have you been clean?" Thank you, Melissa Hicks. She said, "How long have you been clean?" And I said, "I don't know, 6 months." And she chuckled. And she said, "What you're experiencing is serenity. You're fine. Go home." See, serenity is the absence of all the fear. Serenity is the absence of all the anxiety. Serenity was the absence of all of the sensations that told me I was alive. All of the chaos. All of the cortisol zipping through my veins. And I thought I was dying. Why don't more people meditate? Because it's none of these things. It's not exciting. Doesn't produce anxiety, doesn't make you feel more alive. Why do we avoid? We talk about peace, and we talk about peace using anxiety and excitement and fear to try to create peace. I would say I ain't judging, I'm just saying, but on this one I ain't saying, I'm just judging. You cannot be peace without becoming peaceful. You cannot experience serenity without becoming serene. You cannot maintain the emotional, nervous system chaos and heal. You can't do it. So you get to choose. You get to choose. Now, what I can tell you is that you don't have to give up thought. You just have to give up what you're telling yourself about your thoughts. I'll let you chew on that one. Right. The thought isn't the problem. It's the narrative we write about the thought. It's the movie we play about the thought. Change the script. Change your experience. It's that simple. Notice I'm saying simple. Sometimes it's easy, but mostly my experience not so much. Especially when we're bombarded. And most of the time we're bombarded by our own habits, our own behavior, our own patterns. Ernest Holmes said this, and then we're going to take it into prayer. Ernest Holmes says when you're trying to change a habit, invite the habit to stay right there until you've learned everything you created it to teach you. And when you do that, when you learn everything you created that habit to teach you, the habit will change all on its own. If I tell you not to think about fill in the blank, you're going to think about that. You cannot focus on changing a habit and change the habit, because all you're doing is focusing on the habit that you're trying to change, which will mean you are anchoring the habit. Just learn from it. And you created it. Nobody held you down and implanted you with a habit. It's your habit. How is it serving you? Learn that, because once you've learned that, it will leave because it no longer has a place. Let's take this into prayer. In this moment, I allow the breath to remind me that it is the breath of life breathing me. One breath, one body, one life, expressing itself in amazing multiplicity, in exquisite diversity, individualized. No two ideas of itself alike. By design, by intention. This is the reality of life. I am created out of it, by it, to be it, for the sole purpose of expanding the divine's experience of itself. How holy, how sacred, how blessed am I to know that I am one with, and to know that what is true about me is true of all creation. And so as I look in the room, as I look outside, as I look anywhere, I see God. I see God in the mirror. I see God in every person, in every place, in everything. God and only God. And in this moment, I use the word God to refer to the allness of creation. Beyond any idea of a prescribed, limited deity. It is all there is. And I claim the reality of that as my own. And as I claim it as my own in the truth of oneness, I claim it for all of creation. Because there's only one of us here. Grateful. Grateful to stand in that gap of being used. Grateful to know that law has already said yes. And so the soul within me that is the law has already said yes. And so I follow that yes. I let go of any thought-prescribed outcome. And I simply free fall into the mystery to be used in every moment. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.